This is the Goshen property where investigators say at least 2 shooters went on a rampage early Monday morning, killing 6 people. The gunfire is so intense, it was initially called in as a potential active shooter.
We do have survivors. The reason for them surviving this horrific massacre, for lack of a better term, we just don't have all that information.
Among the victims are a teenager and her baby boy.
In January of 2023, in the small central California town of Goshen in the San Joaquin Valley, at about 3:30 in the morning, 2 armed men invaded a compound where the members of one family lived. The bandits then shot and killed 6 people, 2 of them children, one of them a 10-month-old boy. The gunmen then fled on foot and went into hiding. As authorities hunted for the men, there was initial speculation that the rampage was the work of a Mexican drug cartel. 18 days later, on February 3rd, 2 men, believed to be the killers, were apprehended by the Tulare County Sheriff's Office, and further details on the possible motive for the bloodletting were made known to the public. The following narrative is based on statements made by law enforcement officials in Tulare County and on available reporting as of the date that I'm posting this video regarding what led up to and what has followed the massacre in the town of Goshen, California.
This morning about 03:38, just before 0400, 4 a.m. in the morning, the Sheriff's Office began receiving multiple shots fired, reports of multiple shots fired.
911, may I help you?
Hello?
Hello, ma'am, do you have any emergency?
Yeah,
What's going on?
on Harvest, Goshen.
Okay, do you live in an apartment or is this a home?
Right.
Okay, what's going on?
They shot my boyfriend. And they keep shooting outside. But I don't know if they're still here. I'm scared because they're still shooting outside. Please hurry, please. I don't know where they are now. Oh, they're still shooting.
They're still shooting?
Yes, hurry, please. They're coming back. They're coming back. Oh, they're coming back in.
Who's coming back in?
The guys. Please hurry, come on. You hear? Someone else is screaming now. No, that's them shooting in the house.
What do you hear now?
Nothing. I don't know if they're out there. I'm too scared. I hear sirens coming. Thank you. My boyfriend is on the floor. He's shot in the stomach.
Is he breathing?
Is he breathing? Yeah, he's still breathing. He's still breathing. Hold on, baby. Hold on, please.
We have help on the way, okay? I have the officer right around the corner.
It's okay, baby. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. They're here. Okay.
7 minutes after the 911 call was placed, Tulare County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the family compound where the shots were fired.
As deputies began searching the area, unfortunately, they began finding multiple victims at this scene.
The officers first found the bodies of a 16-year-old girl and a 10-month-old baby outside the home along the street. It was clear that the young mother tried to run away with the infant in her arms. Authorities were later able to determine that the girl had been caught before she could escape, and that a gunman had stood over her and the baby and shot them both in the head from above. Deputies then found a man in a threshold to one of the trailers on the property. He lay with gunshot wounds to the torso and to the leg. The door to the main house was forced open, and another man was found dead in the threshold, shot through the head. The grandmother of the family was found dead in one room, kneeling. She too was executed with a headshot. The killers went into another room and delivered the same death blow to another woman as she slept. A total of 6 people were killed on the property. 5 of the 6 slain that morning represent 4 generations of the Parraz family: 72-year-old Rosa Parraz, Alissa Parraz, who was 52 years old, Nycholas Parraz, and Alissa Parraz, who were 19 and 16 respectively, and Alissa's 10-month-old son, Nycholas. Also killed was 50-year-old Jennifer Anaya, the girlfriend of one of the home's residents who happened to be away at the time. That 47-year-old man's name is Martin Perez, better known by his street name, Shooter. Martin and his big brother Eladio, who was killed that night, were members of the Sorrento Street Gang, affiliated with the prison syndicate La M, aka the Mexican Mafia. Martin and Eladio, for years, have had fierce friction with members of a family that lives on a piece of land only a stone's throw away from the Parraz family, the Anayas, some of whom are associated with the Norteños gang, which is a rival of the Sureños. A man named John Tabares, who is a member of the Anaya family, spoke with the Los Angeles Times following the slaughter and discussed the origins of the feud between his family and the Parrazes. According to Tabares, the conflict began in 2014 when Martin Shooter Parraz shot up the house of his grandmother, who lives across the railroad tracks from the Parraz home. In retaliation, he said, his brother, a man named Angel Uriarte, who was 26 years old at the time, fired shots at the girlfriend of Martin's uncle in a trailer park where the woman was staying. Angel would be charged with 1 count of assault with a firearm. He pleaded guilty and confessed his gang affiliation. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison and was released after 5. 7 months after Angel Uriarte of the Anaya family fired those shots at the trailer and was arrested, sheriff's deputies were called to the Parraz home by a woman who said that her cousin had been assaulted by 4 northern gang members, presumably referring to Norteños, to which some of the Anayas belong. Deputies arrived on the scene and took statements from a number of individuals from both the Parraz and Anaya families. The incident allegedly began when Eladio Parraz, one of those murdered this past January, cruised past an Anaya home, exchanging icy glares with the men outside. Subsequently, according to reports, a Parraz woman named Crystal was walking with her 2 young sons and her 15-year-old cousin when 4 men in a car pulled up and accosted them. 2 of the men, Andrew Anaya, 21 years old at the time, and his cousin, Paul Romo, who was 19, got out of the car and beat the shit out of Angel before the boy was able to climb to his feet and flee. A 3rd man aimed a pistol at the boy but did not fire. In the wake of the attack, 2 Anaya women, Mona Lisa and Margie, a grandmother of the clan, came to the Parraz family compound talking loud and selling wolf tickets. Crystal admitted to deputies that she came outside and menaced the 2 women with a baseball bat. Mona Lisa Anaya told deputies that she heard someone yell from inside the Parraz home, quote, "Get the fuck out of here before I shoot you," unquote. The chapter concluded with the arrest of Andrew Anaya and Paul Romo. The 2 men pleaded no contest to assaulting Crystal's nephew, Angel, and admitted their gang affiliation. Both were sentenced to 9 years in prison. That made at least 3 Anayas who had been sentenced to prison time behind the hostilities between the 2 families. Since 1997, Martin Shooter Perez, the man who allegedly initiated the tensions by shooting up the Anaya home, has been in and out of prison on a range of charges relating to guns and drugs. Some of his convictions were connected to crimes he committed while serving prison time for other felonies, according to reports. On January 3rd of this year, 2023, 4 sheriff's deputies went to the Parraz family compound for a parole compliance check on Shooter, who was out of prison on parole after doing 5 years for beating a fellow inmate in the Tulare County Jail. Martin wasn't home when the deputies showed up. His older brother Eladio was there with his girlfriend Melissa. 2 trailers were on the Parraz property, a deputy wrote in a report. Eladio Parraz said he lived in one while his brother Martin lived in the other. In Eladio's trailer, sitting out in the open, a deputy noticed live ammunition. As a condition of his parole, Eladio was not allowed to possess the ammo. Eladio was asked if he had ever been to prison, and he advised him that he had. The deputy asked if he was still an active Sureño gang member, and he stated that he was. Deputies obtained a search warrant and found meth pipes in his trailer, along with body armor in the closet, which felons are prohibited from owning. An AR-style rifle was allegedly stuffed under a mattress in Eladio's trailer, along with a Ruger P89 handgun and a stockpile of ammunition. With that, Eladio was taken into custody on a parole violation. According to deputies, no contraband was located in the trailer where Martin lived. Nevertheless, his having access to the shed where rifle ammunition was located was considered a violation of his parole, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. His brother Eladio was released days later on $60,000 bail, while Martin remained on the street, a fugitive. 13 days later, on January 16th, Martin was still on the loose. But it appears he was not only being sought by the Tulare County Sheriff's Office. but also by Angel Uriarte, according to reports. According to the Tulare County Sheriff's Office, in the wee hours of that morning, Alissa Parraz was in his trailer when he saw two men approaching the family compound on his surveillance system. He went outside to confront them and was shot moments after he stepped out of the trailer. Based on forensic evidence found on the scene, investigators pieced together a timeline of the events that occurred on the property that morning. After shooting Alissa Parraz, then forcing open the front door to the main house of the compound, the assailants likely came across Nycholas Parraz first, shooting the 19-year-old in the back of the head. 50-year-old Jennifer Anaya was executed as she slept. She was the girlfriend of Martin Perez, who was not at home at the time. The two men then tried to enter a bedroom, but the door seemed to be locked. Inside the room was a man who was lying on the floor with his feet propped against the door. As he lay there, he could hear the shooters walking down the hallway. He could hear the gun blasts. He saw the doorknob rattling as one of the killers attempted to enter the room before giving up and moving on. He was not found by the gunmen and survived the massacre. The killers then tried another door and found 72-year-old Rosa Parraz, who had gotten out of bed to find out what was happening. She was kneeling on the floor beside her bed when the men encountered her and shot her in the head. Surveillance images show 16-year-old Alissa Parraz attempting to flee the home with her 10-month-old son Nycholas. She lifts the boy over a fence, placing him on the other side. Then she scaled a nearby gate. One of the bandits followed Alissa down the driveway and fired shots at her. Then he climbed over the gate and tracked the girl down. He then shot the mother and child in the back of the head, according to authorities. Then the two outlaws fled on foot and headed east across the railroad tracks. Some of the victims were still alive when paramedics arrived. They attempted life-saving measures but were unsuccessful. One of the two men that were shot that morning held on to life until he reached a local hospital, where he expired. Martin Perez had been at the home the previous evening before he rode off on his Harley-Davidson motorcycle, carrying with him 50 grams of methamphetamine. Hours after the vicious slaughter, Tulare County Sheriff's and Drug Enforcement Administration agents were staking out a house where Martin "Shooter" Parraz had been spotted with a second girlfriend in Goshen. They watched as he climbed off of his Harley around 7:30 and entered the home. A deputy followed his path and banged on the door, urging Shooter to come out. The gang member yelled back, "What do you want?" The deputy responded that investigators wanted to speak with him regarding the recent crime, referring to the slaughter that unfolded earlier that morning at Shooter's home. After some commotion inside the hideout, Martin opened the door and was taken into custody after some resistance. Law enforcement officials obtained a search warrant and swept the property. They found a gallon-sized baggie of methamphetamine, a loaded Smith & Wesson revolver, and 36 rounds of ammunition. Shooter is now facing federal drug charges. He's also charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm and being a felon in possession of ammunition. On the morning of February 3rd, 18 days after the Goshen massacre, the Tulare County Sheriff's Office, in conjunction with federal ATF agents, executed search warrants at the homes of the suspected perpetrators of the hideous crime. Authorities also raided cells at several California prisons. The extensive sweep, referred to as Operation Nightmare, was targeted at the gangs connected to the bloodshed in Goshen. The two men suspected of firing the fatal shots on the fateful morning were taken into custody. They were 35-year-old Angel Uriarte, Martin Parraz's old rival, and 25-year-old Noah Beard. Beard is believed to be the man seen in the surveillance video from the morning of the slayings, carrying the rifle. This is the man that allegedly chased down and killed young Alissa and Nycholas. Uriarte is believed to be the other man in the video, wearing a trench coat and carrying a pistol. Beard was arrested without incident in the city of Visalia, not far from Goshen. As Beard was arrested, a few miles away, heavily armed agents showed up on the 6600 block of Avenue 308 in Goshen, where Angel Uriarte was hiding. When cops arrived, investigators say Uriarte took off running. Then he turned and fired at ATF agents. The agents returned fire, hitting Uriarte in the torso. He was rushed to the hospital and underwent surgery. He survived his gunshot wound and is also being held without bail. Uriarte and Beard have been charged with 6 counts of murder and a series of special allegations, including multiple murders and committing murders to further the activities of a criminal street gang. Cell phone tower records placed Beard's phone near the Parraz home at the time of the killings, while DNA collected from a live round left at the scene matched Uriarte's. Noah Beard and Angel Uriarte could face the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole if convicted of the crimes of which they've been accused. According to authorities, last week during a 4-day operation, which was a part of the investigation into the slayings, 97 homes in Goshen and Visalia were searched, 26 suspects were arrested, and 18 arrest warrants were executed on known Norteño gang members. The raid turned up firearms, ammunition, methamphetamine, and cocaine. The investigation into the massacre in Goshen is still ongoing. Martin Parraz's girlfriend, Jennifer, who was killed in her sleep during the rampage, is a member of the Anaya family and a relative of one of the men accused of killing her, Angel Uriarte. 3 people survived the assault on the Parraz family compound. 1 man, who was inside the main house on the property where much of the bloodshed occurred, and 2 women, one of whom was Eladio Parraz's girlfriend, who called 911. The 2 females were in one of the trailers there, which was never entered by the shooters. Alissa Parraz's son, Nycholas, was taken from the young mother by Child Welfare Services 3 days after she gave birth because authorities did not believe that the girl was capable of caring for the baby. She regained custody of Nycholas and brought him home on January 13th, just 3 days prior to the fateful morning. Based on what he's seen on the news and the footage of the men walking up the driveway, Angel Uriarte's brother, John Tabárez, said that he has no doubt that his brother was one of the killers. Tabárez believes that Angel went to the Parraz home that morning looking for Martin Shooter Parraz. 4 days before the killing, he said, someone shot at their grandmother's home, the same offense that started the feud so many years ago. Tabárez's guess is that Angel probably blamed the shooting on Martin. If it comes out that he killed the baby, Tabárez said, that's what everyone can understand. You don't fucking do that. You don't do that to a baby who's innocent, who doesn't have anything to do with that life. I don't even know how he can ever start asking for forgiveness. I don't even know.